Welcome once again to the Schmidt Show here on News Radio 1029 KARN. I am your host, Brad Schmidt. Thanks for joining me this afternoon. 501-403-KARN is the phone number, 501-403-5276. If you would like to be a part of the show, you can call us. You can text us. You can reach out to us in a multitude of ways. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I think I've even got one of those, was it Threads? With Instagram, like that was their thing. I think I've even got one of them. I don't know that I've ever actually logged into it, but I think I have an account. I'm on Instagram too, but I don't know. I haven't checked that one in a while either. So I actually have a TikTok account too, I guess. I got all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of ways to get a hold of us and be a part of the show. But the easiest way, of course, is through the phone number 501-403-KARN. And if you happen to live in Bossier City, that's 501-403-5276. So a lot to talk about today. Of course, a lot going on, and we can really talk about all of it. It's not really Free Speech Friday, but anybody that listens to this show, you know that I have a tendency to chase some rabbit trails once in a while, so I'm okay with doing that. We do it a little bit more intentionally on Free Speech Friday, but we do it a lot during the week as well. So we'll get into really anything, but we'll try to keep on track today. One of the things I am going to be talking about is Nebraska. So Nebraska's kind of got an odd legislature. So they have a unicameral legislature in Nebraska, and meaning they don't have a House and a Senate. It's just one body. It's one legislative body in the state of Nebraska. They don't have House and Senate like all the other states do. The other thing they do, and I don't know if it's still this way, but for many, many years it was a nonpartisan. Like they didn't have party affiliations as part of their elections. That may have changed now because there is some talk that it's, Republican versus Democrat and things like that. So I've never lived in Nebraska, so I don't know for sure. But they used to be a nonpartisan unicameral, but I don't know if they're still nonpartisan. However, they had a vote. I don't know if it was last night or early this morning. They had a vote to determine whether or not their electoral college votes would be distributed as a winner-takes-all setup, or if they would maintain the current system, which is one for winning the statewide popular vote and then one for each legislative district in the House, U.S. House. So they actually have three votes in Nebraska, and they split them up. So you could win 1 and 2 or 2 and 1 or whatever. So they had a vote last night to determine if they were going to leave it that way or if they were going to switch to a winner-take-all, and it essentially got shot down. They didn't even make it through the procedural vote to get to a point where they would actually vote on the legislation, and a few of the legislators that were working on it said originally that they were going to keep trying, that they were going to try and push it through again if it doesn't go through this time. But one of the legislators came out last night and said, yeah, I know that's what we promised, but there's just not a procedural way to actually get that done. So they won't be able to bring it back up again before the 2024 election. So if Nebraska changes it, it won't be until at least the 2028 election. But by then, my guess is the desire or the passion to make that happen will probably have gone away. And I would honestly, I don't think I'd like to see it. I like the way Nebraska does it. I think I would leave it alone. I think I would leave Nebraska exactly the way it is. In fact, I would like to see places like California, potentially even Texas, New York, a few other places like that do a similar type of process. Imagine how the Electoral College would change if California, instead of awarding all 50, I think they have 54 now, 54 electoral votes. I think they were up to 57 and they're dropped now to 54. But if they awarded all of their Electoral College votes no longer to the winner-takes-all type of system, but similar to the way Nebraska does, California could result in a split vote where there's 20 or 30 Electoral College votes go to the Republican and 20 or 30 or 25 or 35, whatever it is, would go to the Democrat. Now, that would also affect, if Texas did the same thing, Texas, instead of giving all, 33 or 34 of their electoral votes to the Republican, the Democrats might get 4 or 5 or maybe even 8 or 10 in Texas. But I think overall it would actually help the Republican Party long term in allowing more states or getting more states to go to a split distribution of electoral college votes. The other thing that I think would be interesting in that is that it would allow third parties to become more of a factor. It would allow libertarians, it would allow the Green Party, it would allow these various individual kind of third party and even independent candidates like RFK Jr. to become more legitimate contenders in these races. Now, they're still not likely to win a full majority of the party, but it might force Republicans to stick a little bit more to their conservative values. And for those in the Democrat Party that prefer the progressive side, it might force them to, instead of just embracing whatever the party says, it might force them to be a little bit more open to what the kind of regular Joe average American Democrat wants as opposed to what the party wants. Now, there certainly would be some downsides to that. There certainly would be some issues that would need to be fleshed out in that. But we're going to get into this today. We're going to talk a little bit about the Electoral College, the way it works and all that. But we've also got Lars Mapstead. Lars Mapstead is running for the presidency on the Libertarian ticket. And he is going to join us and talk about this because that was part of his strategy. As I mentioned yesterday, he's like, look, I know I'm not going to win, 270 electoral college votes. And I'm not really trying to. I'm trying to simply get people to understand that there are other options, that there are other places to look at. He talks about his journey into the quote unquote Libertarian Party was he watched an election a few years back or 10 years or 20 years back, whatever it was. And he said, I was not aware what a libertarian was. So I went and Googled, what's a libertarian? And that's more his goal is about messaging, is just to get people to go, what is a libertarian? What does it mean to be a libertarian? What do these libertarians think? What do they stand for? And he wants people to just be aware more of what they're doing and using a presidential candidacy to achieve that goal. And one of the ways that would be a big deal is if he were able to pull just one of those electoral college votes from places like Nebraska or Maine. So he's going to be joining us in the 3 o'clock hour to talk a little bit about that and share his views on it and how he thinks it would affect the Libertarian Party, and not just the Libertarian Party, but various third parties in general, because there could be some very real interesting experiences if that were to happen in places like California, in places like Texas or New York or Illinois or some of the other kind of highly populous states that are one way or the other. Florida might lose a couple of electoral college votes, but we might pick up on the red side several in Illinois and so on and so forth. So 501-403-KRN, 501-403-5276 if you want to weigh in on that. We'll get to that. There's more. We'll talk a little bit about the oil reserves, the latest announcement. The oil reserves, and I looked up the numbers, we are down to about a 17.5-day supply in our strategic oil reserve, which is basically the lowest it's been since the 70s. During Trump's administration, it was about double where we're at now, and the Biden administration is just simply keeping this supply low because allowing that oil to flow into the private market keeps prices a little bit lower, and then Joe Biden is able to artificially claim that, look what I've done for gas prices. So we'll get into that. I mentioned yesterday Buc-ee's is coming to Benton. I don't know if we'll get into that today at all, but I would like to hear if you've got any cool Buc-ee's stories. I've only been to one ever in my whole life, and it was pretty neat. So if you got any of those, feel free to jump in on it. I also want to talk about the eclipse today. I've been doing a little bit of math and a little bit of research, and because I've had a few people say, I don't get it. Why is this such a big deal? Why does it matter? Who cares that this solar eclipse this total eclipse is coming? These things happen all the time, all over the world. They do, but they don't happen here very often. And I'll get into that, explain some of the numbers. There won't be another one through Arkansas until 2045. And then after that, you'd be shocked at when the next one will be. We'll get into that as we continue next on News Radio 102.9 KRN and the KRN app.